I think on the one hand, yes, it's a diplomatic blunder. A head of state should never reveal into the open what he's discussing with another head of state. These are confidential discussions. So yes, Mr. Macron made a diplomatic blunder. On the other hand, I think nobody is surprised, certainly not me or anybody in the Stand Up for Cameroon movement. We saw from last year, starting with the Grand National Dialogue, the release of prisoners, the visits of Mr. Biya to France, and then culminating with the calling of elections. It was very clear to us that this government strategy was designed in partnership with France, and that France played a key role in all of these steps. So no, we were not very surprised by that statement. I doubt. I think that the youth protests in front of the embassy is typical CPDM maneuvers in these kinds of situation. They will create this kind of movement to sort of give them leverage in the discussion with France. And no, I don't think there's going to be any tension. The government communique is very clear. It does not in any way suggest that there was a diplomatic blunder. It does not in any way point out Mr. Macron as having committed anything that was wrong. On the contrary, it insists that French is still a friendly country. So no, I think this is there was a blunder. It made a bit of news, but it did not fundamentally change anything in French-Cameroon relations. And unfortunately, we still have a French government today that is still very much supportive of the Biya regime. It's very important to note that the movement, the 8th of March in Black, is a movement which has several objectives. One is to enable women to express what they're going through right now in this country. Women are uncomfortable, they are burying the dead, they are victims of rape and violence, they are seeing their children being killed, and they are suffering all of the negative elements of conflict, having to take care of their families when the conflict occurs. They are having to take care of the communities because all of the men have left. And really, women are crying for our children who are dying, whether these children are victims of Boko Haram, whether these children are soldiers, whether these children are victims in the northwest and southwest regions. And this comes on top of violence that women are experiencing throughout the country. Women are giving birth in hospitals and they are dying while giving birth because maternal health care is not what it should be. We have forgotten Monique Kumatekel today, but women continue to die every single day in Cameroonian hospitals because they are giving Cameroonian life. This is unacceptable. Women are suffering in terms of trying to send their children to school. In the conflict regions, it's because of conflict. But in the other regions, it is because there is no school, there is no teacher, there is no, the women do not have money to pay the school fees. They are suffering in their economic activities. So on this 8th of March, we have decided that women who are suffering from the governance of this regime must come out to say enough is enough. That is step one. But the women are organizing and mobilizing to have a voice about the future of Cameroon. Women, I don't think it's a question, can they play a huge role? They will play a huge role in defining the future of the country, in defining what type of governance we are going to have. Most of the protests that we at Stand Up for Cameroon we have organized, we realize that women are the majority of those who are protesting. So women are already in the lead, and they will continue to be so. So we always use this last week of February to commemorate those who died during this week in 2009 because they were protesting the removal of term limits, because they were protesting the governance that had created very poor economic conditions to the point of prices of foodstuff going up so high that the average citizen could not afford them. So this period is a period that was really terrible because our children were killed because they were protesting, they were arrested and their rights were not respected, they were abused within the police system and then again within the judicial system. So it's a period to remind us, as we are again in Cameroon in a period where rights are being violated, it's a period to remind us of the fact that we live in a country which is an oppressive country towards its citizens, which is a dictatorship that does not allow for the free expression of political opinions and of rights. And that what we are fighting for in Stand Up for Cameroon, called political transition, is the only way to remove us from this. It is a very deep-seated culture that starts at the time of independence and continues till today. So this week, we used to commemorate not only those who died in 2009, but all those who have stood up and fought for Cameroon. Those who stood up and fought the colonizer, the German colonizer, the English colonizer, those who fought for independence of this country, those who fought in 2009, and those who fought for democracy, for us to have the right to speak, as I'm speaking to you today. Everybody who has stood up and fought for this country is commemorated during this week. The civil society has raised its voices, has raised its voice to demand justice for Ngarbo, and we must continue to do so. We must do so through the courts, we must do so through protests, we must do so nationally, and we must do so internationally. It's a scandal for Cameroon that this number of people have died. First of all, we don't have a clear figure, a credible figure from our government. Secondly, we don't have credible information as to the circumstances of the deaths. And thirdly, that there is no attempt to get justice for these people who were murdered in their sleep. That much we know. So as a political actor, we have joined together with civil society. We are putting forth a certain number of actions, including legal action, to make sure that we get justice for Ngarbo. The regime in place has an open road. That is a dictatorship. They have an open road. Whether parties participate in elections or not, they have an open road. So our non-participation is to make sure that we are not complicit to the system. And it is also to galvanize Cameroonians through other means, as you saw us doing on the 7th of February with a march, as you see us doing every Friday with Friday in Black. We believe in the change through non-violent, massive protests of Cameroonians. So we spend our time educating Cameroonians, we spend our time letting Cameroonians know what their rights are, and enabling Cameroonians to move into action. These are things which we cannot do sitting in a council or sitting at the National Assembly. A National Assembly where, in the midst of all this crisis, we have never discussed the crisis inside the National Assembly. The Anglophone crisis has never been discussed there. So the question I would ask you is that we would participate in elections to do what? When you are a parliamentarian who cannot discuss the problem of your citizen inside the parliament, what is the point of being in parliament?